Airline workers have filed a lawsuit against United Airlines after they announced that they would be firing workers, cutting back hours, and taking billions in stimulus funds. What's your take?
This is the least surprising thing that I think we have seen since these bailouts happened, because Congress, the House and the Senate tried to act like they were going to do something about it and said, listen, corporations, you can't just take billions of dollars and then screw over your workers. So you have to promise you're not going to fire anybody, you're not going to cut hours, and you're going to use this money to pay.
That was a promise they made, right?
They said, absolutely, we will do that. And then less than 2 weeks after those checks cleared for airlines like United, they said, all right, listen up, union workers, you're all now part-time. You're not full-time. You're losing benefits. You're losing pay. Everything that we promised we would save for you, in fact, we're not going to do it. And Congress isn't going to do anything about it, so these workers have to turn to the courts.
Let me tell you, I read a couple of stories. This is written by, this was what Courthouse News, a really well-written article, actually. The trend that I see is this. It's not just United. Eastern Airlines was raided by a guy named Frank Lorenzo, okay? Eastern Airlines had union problems. They had problems with their pension. They went through a bad time during a recession. And so Frank Lorenzo came and took that as an opportunity as a corporate raider. He came in, he sold their assets, he did away with the pension programs, he fired everybody, he deunionized, and ultimately took the airline into bankruptcy. I see the same thing happening. Now, understand, United has already done this. United has already sought Chapter 7 protection, not Chapter 11, but Chapter 7, where they have reorganized. Anytime you see a crisis like this, you see corporate raiders moving in. So right now, I think you have United, they don't really care. They don't care what the government does. They have a backup plan. The backup plan is what they've done already. If things get really bad, we're going to move to Chapter 7. We're going to reorganize. We're going to sell off assets. It's going to be a new deal. We see the same thing happening with Neiman Marcus, JCPenney, J. Crew, Crystal Hamburgers, McClatchy News, Pier 1 Imports. The list is a massive list of these national corporations that are taking this opportunity that we have right now, that they have. Suffering, the coronavirus is a problem. Let's move in and take advantage of it. They're going to move into Chapter 7. They're going to do reorganization. They're going to get rid of all the dead weight. They're going to get rid of all the people being paid big money. They're going to take the pension program, turn it on its head. They're going to sell off assets, and you're going to see corporate raiders coming in at a record level. That's my prediction for United Airlines.
Oh, right. This is not a crisis for the airlines or for any of these other businesses you mentioned. This is an opportunity. This is their time to say, okay, perfect. Now we can do this. Everybody, it's not going to look so bad if we file bankruptcy right now because everybody else is doing it. We can get rid of all the liabilities that we may have had. We can move forward. We'll let this person or this company buy us out for a large sum of money. We retain our management. Whatever it is, they are loving this. They may be whining in public in Congress begging for billions, but they know things are going to be so much better for them on the other side because they can use this as a chance to screw over people who've devoted their lives to these
You're
companies.
going to see the Frank Lorenzo Eastern Airline thing play itself out with a lot of companies throughout the country. Barbarians at the Gate. Go read it. Thomas Wolfe. It's a great book. While colleges across the country are already reeling from having classes and graduation ceremonies canceled due to the pandemic, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is at it again. She's aggressively pushing for controversial new rules regarding sexual assault cases. I have Molly Barrows, legal journalist for the National Trial Lawyer magazine. Molly, this story is just beyond crazy.
It is.
It's almost like DeVos is coming in and saying, A, she doesn't understand we already have a criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
And she wants to create a special criminal justice system for colleges. Now,
right.
Take it from there. This story is very disturbing.
Right. So I'll lay some of the groundwork for the rules and the general areas that they affect. And they are sweeping changes, and it changes the standard of proof. The colleges now have the choice of determining if it's clear and convincing or if it basically meets the 51% convinces them that the person's guilty. It also narrows the definition of sexual harassment. So you're going to have a smaller pool of types of complaints that could be applied formally. And this is what's really interesting, too. A couple of things. Quasi-court hearings. When a person has moved forward with filing a formal complaint, they want to hold live or virtual perhaps both, quasi-court hearings where the students, both the accused and the accuser, can be represented by attorneys. They can also be cross-examined. Also, they have to report complaints, respond to complaints only that happen on campus or on properties that are controlled by the campus or somehow connected to it, like a fraternity or a sorority. So, in essence, the purpose behind it, according to DeVos, was to give more rights to both the accused and the accuser. In other words, she threw out the Obama administration's previous rules and said that they didn't give enough due process to the accuser. So basically, or the accused, I should say. So basically, these rules give more rights to the accused. And she says that the reason these courts are needed, these quasi-court hearings are needed, is because of upholding due process, which goes to your point as to we've got a process.
Yeah, well, both Obama got it wrong.
Right.
This is so wrong. I can't even. We don't even have time to go into all the details.
It's
but
unreal.
here it is. Here it is. A college has an interest in making sure that the public doesn't know how many assaults take place on their campus, okay?
That's right.
So what they typically do, and she knows this, she knows exactly how they run this scam in colleges. They bring the student in, they say that's been sexually assaulted, raped. They say, you know, Mary, you really don't want this to go public, do you?
Right.
Why don't you just meet with us and we'll talk to the person who raped you, and we'll see if we can't work
it
this out. And do you really want him kicked out of school? Do you really want this to be public? That goes on every day in America right now.
Yes.
All right? Now, so she's talking due process. The idea of due process here is absurd. Due process could be as simple as this: have a hearing, see if there's probable cause, take it out of the hands of the college. Kick it over to the criminal courts. Say, we talked to the person who was raped. We talked to the person who was accused of doing the rape. We think there's enough for you to investigate it. Take it out of the college. Give it to the criminal justice process.
This
is not for
a preliminary investigation.
She wants a whole new court
Exactly.
system. She wants a college
that
court system.
discourages victims from coming forward and reporting. Because
of course
basically,
it does.
who's going to want to talk about this life? Who's going to be cross-examined? And also, real quick to your point about discouraging, basically, colleges are no longer to require coaches and supporting staff to report accusations of sexual harassment.
Christ.
They expect they will anyway, but the reason that they've given is that it gives autonomy to the students who may not want it reported, which supports your assertion, which I completely agree with, that they don't want these accusations
Okay,
out.
you have a client. Okay, let's say you got a client. Your client has been raped by some fraternity thug.
Right.
Okay? You know that everything she says can be used against her somewhere. So now she's appearing in front of these numbnuts, these college professor administrative types.
And they're quasi-court hearings.
In what they call quasi-court, making statements, okay? So what if she wants to bring a criminal case? What if she does what she should do? Bring the criminal case. All she's done is exposed her case already. She's given the victim time to assemble his case. And it's nothing but bad for the accused. This is a nightmare.
It is, and she's going to see a lot of litigation as a result of it, because the National Women's Law Center is already looking at filing litigation saying it denies rights to the accuser, and it's just a mess.
She is not the sharpest tool in the shed. And we did a show on her last week where she's trying to collect money from student loans when there's a clear law that says you can't do it right now. That's the intelligence of this woman. That's what we're up against here.
Well, she's given us plenty to talk about.
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about. Thanks for joining me, Molly.
Thanks, Pat.